I first noticed something was wrong the night I saw a janitor's cart parked in front of the sealed science wing. The thing is, I was the only janitor on shift. That hallway had been locked since 2016. I walked over, figuring maybe someone left it out from the day crew. The glass doors were cracked open about 6 inches. The lights inside were dead, just exit signs glowing red. But as I looked in, one of the classroom doors down the hall slowly swung shut. And just before it did, I saw a shadow move across the floor. Not a reflection. Not mine. Just a single, low shadow. As if someone had been crouching. My name's Daryl. I started working night shift custodial at this old high school after getting laid off from landscaping. It wasn't a bad gig. Mostly quiet. Mostly alone. I'd show up around 10 p.m., run my checklist, and leave before sunrise. The school was one of those sprawling 2-story buildings with a weird 3rd level no one used anymore. The newer gym was always spotless, but the rest of the place creaked like it wanted to be torn down. The science wing, the one on the 2nd floor near the library, had been closed off since a chemical spill back in the day. Officially, it was sealed for good. After I saw that shadow move across the floor, I didn't go inside. I stood there a minute longer, trying to make sense of what I'd seen. Then I backed away, went back to the other wing, and finished my shift without saying anything. I figured maybe I'd imagined it. Or maybe someone from the admin staff had opened it up without telling the night crew. Either way, I didn't want to be the one asking questions. Not yet. The next night, the cart was gone. But the smell wasn't. It was bleach, that lemon-scented kind we hadn't stocked in years. The weird thing was, the air in that hallway was always colder than the rest of the school, even in summer. And once you noticed it, you couldn't ignore it. I kept telling myself it was nothing, just leftover chemicals or drafty vents. But I started vacuuming a little faster when I passed that part of the floor. I didn't like how quiet it felt near those doors. One Thursday around 3 a.m., I thought I heard someone walking above me. Slow, even footsteps. I was down in the main office, and the only thing directly overhead was that sealed hallway. I turned off the buffer and just listened. No voices, just the sound of someone moving. Pacing almost. I radioed the front desk, asked if the security guy had gone upstairs. He hadn't. When I asked if the cameras covered that wing, he said those feeds had been dead for a while. I tried to brush it off, chalked it up to old pipes or raccoons in the walls. The next night, I walked by the hallway again, doors shut, everything quiet, and told myself I was being ridiculous. Then I checked my nightly cleaning sheet. Room 231, debris cleanup, 2nd floor. That was in the sealed wing. I was sure it had to be a mistake. I asked the day crew if they'd seen anything new up there, but they just shrugged, said maybe the admin office had reactivated the hallway for storage or summer deep clean. So that night, I brought the master key and went up. The lock turned like it hadn't been touched in years, but the door gave way easily. Inside, the hallway was dark. No overhead lights, just those faint emergency exit glows. Every locker was still taped shut, and the air smelled like dust and bleach. Room 231 was about halfway down. The door was cracked open, and someone had swept the floor. Inside, it looked like the room had been frozen in time. Desks still aligned in rows, chalkboard full of faded writing about safety goggles and chemical burns. A mop leaned in the corner, not one of ours. I checked the supply closet. There was a janitor's cart inside, similar to ours, but old, dusty. Logo peeled off, and stuffed in the trash bag compartment was something rolled in burlap and duct tape. I touched it. It was damp. I didn't open it. The following night, I brought bolt cutters. But when I reached the hallway, the doors were locked again. My master key didn't work this time. I radioed the front desk. No one had changed the locks. They told me the hallway was still sealed. I checked the paper sheet again. Room 231, debris cleanup. Same as before, but now the ink looked faint, aged even. I asked the secretary about it the next day, and she pulled up my assignments. Room 231 wasn't on the list anymore, and hadn't been in over a year. I stayed away from that hallway for a few nights, but then the power flickered around 2:45 a.m. When it came back, my cart's UV wand, the one I never use, was glowing. Written across the side of the handle in white chalk were the words, "You left a mess." I checked every hallway. No one else was there. I left early that night and didn't come back until Monday. That Monday night, I walked past the hallway one more time. Not to go in, just to look. But the glass doors were wide open. Every locker was open too, their vents aimed outward like rows of mouths. At the far end, room 231's door creaked open, and a plastic "Caution Wet Floor" sign slid slowly across the tile. I left my shift halfway through. Clocked out, told them I had food poisoning. No one questioned it. The supervisor didn't even call. I think he knew better than to ask. A few nights later, I drove past the school out of curiosity. The windows were dark, all except one faint red glow near the library. Second floor. The hallway no one was supposed to be in. A few weeks ago, a new janitor left me a voicemail, said he found my name scribbled on a faded logbook in a closet labeled R231. He didn't ask anything else. Just one question. "Did you ever leave your cart up here?" He said when he came in Tuesday night, there were 2 janitor carts in the hallway. One of them had water in the bucket. I blocked the number. Haven't answered any unknown calls since. But I'll tell you this. Sometimes I dream about that hallway, and I can still smell that lemon bleach. Not the brand we used, the old one. The kind we stopped ordering 5 years ago. I saw the same student in 3 different classes before I realized he wasn't on any of the rosters. First period, back row. Second period, same kid, different room. Third period, I called on him, and the girl next to him said, "Who?" It was my first day subbing at Carver High. Long-term assignment, filling in for a history teacher on medical leave. The building was one of those older schools with heavy doors, yellowed tiles, that damp drywall smell no matter the season. The bell system was old too, loud and uneven, like it had been rewired too many times. Most of the students kept to themselves. A few asked if I was the new Mr. Gorman. I said no. I was just filling in for a while. The main office gave me a full-day schedule, rotating classrooms instead of having a home base. 8 periods, 8 different rooms. In every class, I had a printed roster, names, photos, seats assigned by the absent teacher. First period was government. Half-asleep juniors. One kid in the back didn't match any of the names. No one seemed to know him. He didn't speak, just stared forward. I figured maybe he was a transfer or late ad, marked him present and moved on. Second period, different floor, sophomore world history. The exact same kid, same seat position in the back, still not on the list. Third period is when it hit me. Different classroom again. New subject, new roster, but there he was. Same hoodie, same expression, same seat in the back corner. He didn't have a phone out, didn't fidget, just sat there with his hands in his lap, motionless. That was when I called on him. "Hey, you in the hoodie? What's your name?" He didn't look up. The student next to him said, "Who?" I pointed. The kid frowned. No one sitting there. I walked to the back to check. There was an empty desk. My stomach dropped. I turned around slowly and looked at the rest of the class. Everyone was watching me now. A few snickers. I made some excuse about sleep deprivation and moved on. But when I glanced back one more time, the kid was there again, hands folded, staring. I didn't see him in fourth period. I started to relax. Then fifth period came around. Upper floor, older wing, no air conditioning, just rattling fans and heavy light through dusty windows. I did roll call, then looked up, and there he was again. Same hoodie, same blank stare, same desk by the wall. I didn't even pretend to call on him this time. I just stood there, trying not to look. Sixth period. The hallway lights flickered as I walked in. There was a whine in the intercom speaker like feedback, but it cut out before anyone said anything. I scanned the room. He was already seated. Front row this time. Closer. I stared right at him, waiting for him to blink, shift, do something. He didn't. A girl in the second row looked between us and asked, "You okay, Mr. Teacher?" I said I was fine. My voice cracked. Seventh period, I went to the bathroom between bells. I splashed water on my face and stared at myself, trying to reset. That's when the lights in the restroom flickered too. Just for a second. And behind me, in the mirror, I saw him standing at the end of the row. Hoodie up, same dead stare. I spun around. No one was there. The stall doors were still open. The hallway outside was empty. By eighth period, I was shaking. I stood by the whiteboard trying to focus. I didn't take roll, didn't teach, just scanned the faces. He wasn't there. Then, halfway through class, the intercom turned on again. This time, it stayed on. A man's voice whispered, hoarse and slow, "He's in your last class." The kids all froze. Some laughed nervously. One asked if that was a prank, but no one got up. The PA clicked off. I looked toward the back. He was sitting there, and this time I swear he was smiling. After the bell, I packed up and went straight to the office. The secretary barely looked up. I told her I needed to speak to whoever assigned my schedule. She said, "Mr. Gorman's out. You're on his rotation." I asked if there had been any students flagged or suspended recently. She blinked at me. "We don't give subs that info." I asked if I could see attendance logs from today. She said that wasn't allowed, but paused. "What's the issue?" I hesitated, then just said there was a student attending classes who wasn't listed on the rosters. She asked, "Which class?" I said, "All of them." She stared at me for a second, then typed something on her computer. Her brow furrowed. "Mr. Gorman left a note in the sub binder. I didn't see this earlier. It says..." She turned the screen toward herself. "It says if you see a boy in a gray hoodie, don't acknowledge him, no matter what." I didn't work the next day. I didn't answer the follow-up call either. But last night, I looked up Carver High's history department online. Mr. Gorman died a week ago. Cardiac arrest, supposedly in his classroom. The post said the students held a candlelight vigil, said they left notes and flowers at his old desk. There's a picture with the article, a wide shot of the vigil table, and standing in the back of the photo, half obscured behind the lockers, is a kid in a gray hoodie, staring straight at the camera. It started when the school's IT guy reviewed an overnight security dump and saw a teacher on camera talking to someone who wasn't there, not just a wave or a muttered hello. This went on for hours. Full conversations, hand gestures, laughing, pausing to listen. But there was no audio, and no one else in the room. I didn't hear about it right away. I was just the junior admin coordinator, a made-up title for someone who basically ran attendance and copy machines. The footage was flagged on a Friday. By Monday, the tech team had already pulled the hard drive and handed it off to the district. The teacher in question was Mr. Elias. Room 302. English and journalism. Mid-50s. Always stayed late. Sometimes slept at the school if there was a deadline for the yearbook. Harmless guy. What caught their attention wasn't just that he was alone in his room past midnight. It was how he was behaving. He wasn't grading or typing. He wasn't on a Zoom call. He was facing the far wall like there was someone else in the room. He leaned in, paused, nodded, laughed, gestured. Sometimes he looked down like he was holding something, then looked up again to whoever he thought was across from him, but the chairs were empty. The tech pulled the files when they noticed that his classroom lights didn't match the building's motion sensor logs. They should have gone dark around 11:40, but they stayed on until 3:12 a.m. The camera angle only showed half the classroom. Mr. Elias was seated at his desk, then he'd turn toward the left, slightly out of frame, and talk. At one point, he stood, walked to the center of the room, and just stood there for 10 minutes. Arms at his sides, not moving. I overheard the principal talking about it behind closed doors. I was refilling the copier outside the conference room and heard her say, "No, I don't want to fire him, but this can't go unnoticed. He's clearly not well." Someone else replied, "Just ask him who he was talking to." There was a long pause. Then the principal said, "We did. He didn't remember staying late at all." The next morning, I went to deliver mail to the English hall and passed room 302. Mr. Elias was inside, typing, looked completely normal. I waved. He smiled back. But something felt off. His office light was on too, and I swear I saw movement in there, like someone ducked behind the mini fridge. When I looked again, no one was there. I told myself it was just glare from the window. That afternoon, I passed the security guy outside and asked if the issue with room 302 got resolved. He frowned and said they'd installed a new motion sensor in there over the weekend. Then he paused. Weird thing though, that new one, it never logs him entering the room. It just says the lights come on, and sometimes the air kicks in. He showed me the screen. The log said the room was unoccupied from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m., but I'd seen him through the door around 6:45. I checked the staff sign-in sheets. He hadn't badged out since Thursday. His keycard logs just stopped. I brought it up casually at the front office, and the secretary got quiet. She said, "He's been under a lot of stress. That journalism student, remember her? The one that passed away in the spring?" I nodded. She was really close with him, mentored in that same room. That night I looked up the old news coverage. Her name was Emily Zhang, 17, honors student. She'd collapsed in the parking lot after a track meet, cardiac episode. No known health problems. The article mentioned she'd worked on the yearbook staff, led the layout for 3 years. The last photo she posted online was a shot of her desk in room 302. Caption said, "This place is home." The next day, I had to deliver a discipline packet to a teacher upstairs. When I passed room 302, the lights were off. Door cracked an inch. I walked past, then paused. Something made me go back. I don't know why. I peeked through the glass again. Mr. Elias was sitting at his desk, lights still off, facing the back wall, nodding slowly. I stepped away and left the folder upstairs. But when I came back down the hall 10 minutes later, the classroom door was wide open. No one inside. But his office door was shut now. There was a single desk light on inside, and written on the window in what looked like dry erase marker were 3 words. "She's not gone." I told the principal everything. I said I thought he needed help. She sighed, then opened her drawer and handed me a letter. It was dated 2 days earlier. Mr. Elias had resigned with a typed letter. At the bottom, he'd written 1 line by hand. "Some part of her is still in that room. That room's locked now. No one uses it." The new English teacher was assigned a portable out back. But every couple weeks, the custodial staff still files a maintenance ticket. Lights left on, Desk lamp moved. Office chair not where they left it. And once, just once, someone submitted an IT request for Room 302 desktop mic picking up ghost audio. They sent a sample clip with the request. It's faint, mostly static, but you can hear two voices. One is Mr. Elias, the other sounds like a teenage girl. She says,
Okay, let's start with layout.